Hello, welcome. This is going to be the first episode of my short video series about my new minigame for Minecraft, which I've decided to call Chunk Wars. What I'm going to do is record a bunch of footage over the next couple of months and take you with me on the journey as I build this minigame chunk by chunk by chunk. Today what we'll do is take a look at what I've done so far. I'll show you the first version of the home chunk that I've built over here. Then we'll look at how I developed the concept for Chunk Wars from the original idea I had into different tools that I think are really going to help guide me as I build this minigame. Then after that we'll talk a bit about why this version of the home chunk isn't going to work anymore, and I'll take a crack at building the new home chunk, or Stronghold Chunk as it's going to be called. And once that's done, we'll finish up and look ahead to the next episode. So here we are on the home chunk as it is at the moment. And while we take the tour and look around here, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I'm even building Chunk Wars at all. Fairly recently I got interested in PvP for Minecraft, and since then I've been looking around for good minigames to play. And it struck me that there just simply aren't very many great PvP maps right now that are both strategic and designed for teams of players, in a way that encourages and rewards good teamwork and communication. And I want to play a minigame that puts you in a situation in Minecraft and then rewards you for making good strategic decisions. I think that'd be a really fun experience to have. And don't get me wrong, there are a few good and great minigames out there that do that, but there aren't very many at all, and the wider field of maps is really weak at doing that on the whole. So I had a think, and I've come up with what I think are 4 reasons for that, and I've got a couple of notes on it. So first up, the personal time commitment required, I think, to develop an original concept, to take your idea to a prototype stage and then build it into a workable minigame is really, really massive. You need a lot of hours to do that. Then you have all the game knowledge or theories you have to acquire or develop or learn, and that takes a long time too. So first up, time is a real issue. Secondly, I think just the idea of using communications in Minecraft for playing it strategically in a team-based PvP environment is still pretty new to the wider Minecraft community. Whereas if you take a game like League of Legends or Call of Duty, the idea of using Mumble or TeamSpeak or Skype or Ventrilo, that's pretty standard for those communities. Third up, you've got resources. There are very, very few good resources available for people who want to build maps. I found that when I've been looking around for ideas myself. There are very few examples of any kind of written or video content that show or actually talk about the process of building a minigame. And then finally, there just isn't a big audience for this kind of stuff right now, I don't think. Strategic PvP doesn't have the same mass appeal that results in tens or hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube in the same way that just, survival Minecraft would, or a traditional Let's Play series. So the rewards and recognition for map makers are tiny in comparison to what other people do, and that's definitely going to put some people off. And then going back to reason 1, actually, it isn't just your time you need. You need a lot of other people's time as well. To elevate your minigame from something that's average to good to great takes a lot of beta testing. You need people who understand and like your concept, or who like you enough to play test your game over and over and over and over again. Otherwise you just end up releasing a map full of bugs, it won't have mass appeal, and the whole cycle starts all over again. So I thought a little bit more about maybe if I could try to help remove some of these barriers for other people who want to make maps. And I've started trying to share written content and images, but I don't think that captures people's attention and imagination in the same way that video can. So in the end, I thought, what better way than to make videos of me designing and building my first minigame for Minecraft? Because if I can do it, other people can too. Okay, so that's some of the background information and the why I'm building Chunk Wars. Let's now take a look at two of the models I've developed to help me think about and make decisions about my game. So this is the very first scale model of Chunk Wars I built, and you need to think about each of these stone blocks as being equivalent to one of the large chunks in the main arena. You can see that it started out as a 4-team game, so red, yellow, green and blue, and it was a 7x7 grid around the outside with this sort of 5x5 play area in the inside. The bedrock walls came partially into the arena, forcing teams to take a route around here to get the good loot in these bonus chunks on the corner. And I've decided to rule this model out for a couple of reasons. So the first reason is that I want teams to feel like they can get settled into the game before they have to or are forced to PvP really early on. So let's say the red team start here and they go out into one of these first 3 chunks. If they go diagonally at any point to this one or this one, they could quite easily meet a team coming the other way. So if yellow team decide they want to go this way, then you're going to have PvP across this divide immediately. And while that would be fun and fast paced, I want there to be rush routes to extend people's trip into the centre of the arena to create those PvP battles, but not necessarily have instant PvP right on the chunk next to your home. So I've decided to restructure the arena a little bit, and we'll look at that in a second. The other reason I've decided to rule this out is because I want the game to be as accessible to as many people as possible. So I looked at normal render distance. What's the distance you can see if you are on normal render distance, and it's 128 blocks in any direction, which is equivalent to 8 chunks, so 8 times 16. So let's say you're the green team and you start here and you're on the edge of this chunk, you would be able to see 8 chunks into the arena that way. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, to the edge of this chunk here, 8. So you wouldn't be able to see these 2 rows here. You might see players rendering outside the normal render distance, but you're not going to see the arena, and I don't think that's a good experience. So I've decided to make it a 5x5 grid, which as soon as you're on the edge of a chunk, you'll be able to see basically the whole arena, and that's really good. So let's take a look at the second model I'd made. So here's our second mock-up, and you still need to think about each one of these stone blocks as representative of one of the large-scale chunks in the final arena. But for this model, I've just taken out the space in between because it's easier to represent it on the wall like this. But you can kind of see it with the signs. So I think this alleviates some of the early problems we had with a huge amount of PvP pressure at an early stage in the game that might not allow teams to get settled. Because if red team go out to any one of their first 3 tier 2 chunks, 2A, 2B or 2C, and these would be copied around the arena, 2A, 2B, 2C, A, B, C, 90 degrees each time, they won't immediately come under intense PvP pressure from somebody on a chunk next to them. So let's say they go to 2A and yellow team go to 2C, you've still got 2 chunks of bridging space and an entire chunk between them. And I think that's a good thing. They'll be able to collect their key resources early on and then move out into the arena, the 3rd tier chunks, to enter into PvP battles. But I don't think it rules out the possibility of having fast routes to the centre, which I'll discuss in a later episode, where we can create situations for early fist fights over some key resources in the middle. So I'm much happier with this model, and I'm going to treat this 5x5 grid now as the final version of the map and the arena which I'm going to work on, building the chunks in as I go, unless I come up with any other major problems. Right, so here we are at the site of the new home chunk, or Stronghold Chunk as it's going to be called, because I'm going to try and compress the key features from this stronghold and put them in that 16 by 16 by 16 space. One of the fundamental concepts I came up with when designing Chunk Wars was that I wanted it to be accessible to casual players who might not have played PvP before. And the only way I thought to really make them feel at home is to put them in a natural vanilla Minecraft environment, or something that felt like vanilla. I want to take it a stage further now and take as much as possible from vanilla Minecraft and create an environment which is as close as possible to vanilla Minecraft on a small scale. And that's what I'm going to do with the Stronghold Chunk. So let's take a quick tour of the key features I've marked off, some of which I want to include and some of which I don't. We'll talk about why that is, and then we'll go ahead and start building. Strongholds consist of 3x3 corridors, which sometimes have chests in with naturally generated resources. Strongholds have end portal rooms, but I don't want lava to be accessible to teams right at the start of the game. Strongholds sometimes have different doors, wooden, without buttons, or iron, with buttons. Some rooms in Strongholds have pillars in, with multiple routes leading off them. There are libraries in Strongholds which contain chests, cobwebs, and bookcases, but I don't want teams to have access to books early on in the game. There are staircases in Strongholds that go round and round and round and down, and sometimes come out by interesting features. There are cobblestone staircases too, that go straight up or straight down. There are traps in Strongholds that have chests with loot and nasty tricks to catch you in a space. So this is my first attempt at replicating some of the Stronghold features in this space. I've tried to include that really nice feature that was at the bottom of the spiral stairs, because I really like this. But I've got a feeling we simply can't fit this into the space and have the other things around it that I want to. Because it takes up so much horizontal and vertical space, it makes it really difficult to have a usable area above it. This is 3 high here with grass on the surface, but I actually need to have a ceiling in here as well below the grass, so this is only 2 high. And then below here, again, I need to have a floor between the bedrock floor and the base of where I'm going to walk around. And if we come out of our 3x3 corridor here and we want to use this space, we can't because we don't have enough room to walk around. So I think this rules that feature out, unfortunately, which is a real shame. But I'm going to start building some of the staircases, the spiral staircases in, and use those as the basis for building up the elements of the stronghold around it. I think they're going to allow us to move up and down the height really easily, and then in and out of different rooms and corridors. So here's my second attempt at the stronghold. I started off by putting in the 3-wide spiral staircase in the corner, and then had a room which it opens up into with a couple of corridors leading off, with a chest in this one, and then another spiral staircase over in this corner to take you down to the next level. The problem I'm having right now is that this pillar is normally 3 blocks high here, as you can see, and there's normally a 2-block space between the pillar and the ceiling in the stronghold. But if I put the ceiling in at that level, it brings us up to ground level, and then we can see the stronghold from above ground. And I don't want that. I want to be able to have something on top of the stronghold as well. And that might need a floor, so I can't do that. I'm going to need to drop this down a level and bring it to here, and just compress the space a little bit. And I don't think that sacrifices too much. I think that's going to be okay. So I'll bring the ceiling out to here, and then we can see actually we're making pretty good use of space here. We've got a lot of features compressed really tightly on top of each other, and I'll do the rest of the ceiling in a second, with 1 block wide spaces in between that form both the floor and ceiling of the floor below. So this is the base of the second spiral staircase now, looking back up there. And come down here into an open room. We've got possibly a little corridor here I could run down and then come out this way. And then another sort of corridor feel over here with a chest in it again, empty at the moment. What I'm going to try and do in here is recreate the Stronghold trap. Right, I've thrown in some extra torches here and started to think about the second level for the trap going in here. We've got a 7x8 room right now, so I've also brought this out one to represent where the new wall will need to go. So if we put in our 7x7 here, you can see quite quickly that as we start building up these concentric squares on the inside, it'll go from 7x7 down to 5x5 here. It's getting a little bit of sound lag there, it's a bit strange. And then 3x3 here in the centre, exactly like the trap in the actual Stronghold, and that's really good. So I'm pleased with that. Let's put that in now, just to show what it looks like if we were to fall down here and we'd be stuck. Then we should put this wall in. And we need to have a way up here, so we'll probably put a ladder in on this side, I guess. And obviously we need to bring the wall out along here as well to make it consistent. So let's do that, and then cover off this unsightly cobble here. So let's finish up this wall, take that torch out, and then probably drop that down there. And actually, because of the way this looks, I feel like I probably want to put a little room in here rather than have a corridor that comes down and then opens up into the room. So this should probably be a 3 wide or 2 wide door. Do it like this, or like that perhaps. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which option you prefer, door on the left or door on the right. And then we'll walk into this space, emerge in here, probably have ladders up here, and then the chest will go here or here. And I think that's pretty good. I'm going to work a little bit more now on some of the detail of this and make another copy and put it over there. And then we'll come back, look at that, and then finish up with the final chunk. So I made a copy of the chunk as it was and added some tweaks. I've just filled in a few of the spaces now that were there, tidied this up a little bit, and on the inside I've made the experience a little bit more consistent as you walk around, so the torches are in familiar and sensible locations where possible. I've checked the block lighting because I don't want mobs to spawn in here naturally, so this should stop any mobs from spawning in this stronghold, which is good. I need to obviously add in the mossy and cracked brick and eventually some silverfish as well in the final version, but I think this is a pretty good effort. We've got the chest over here, that would have resources in. Oh, can't drop down there. Try again. No, still stuck. Okay. Let's just get rid of those ladders. There we go. Okay, so you run around here, you've got your chest here, this torch will go, and then I was thinking about this sort of space here. I could either put in a little room like this and have perhaps an iron door with a button here or a wooden door, and you could run in and get some key resources like some diamonds or something in this small space, or I could leave it open and have it almost be like another corridor with one of these chests along this side here. So let me know which one of those options you prefer, whether you think the little room, which would look something like that, and we'd stick an iron door in, or the open space we just looked at. Again, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Right, here we are. It's time for the big reveal of the final draft of the Stronghold Chunk, and here it is. This is what we're going to be playtesting in the arena. I think it looks really good, like it's been plucked out of the grounds naturally. We've got a village house on the top now as well, along with a tree, and 8 of these lovely flowers, which you can put along the front of the house here, 6 on this side and 2 on this side if you like a nice tidy garden. We can run inside the house, and this will be a good spawning space for our teams. We've got a reminder of the colour, which team you're on, in the ceiling. Eventually I'm going to use yellow and light blue, I think, because they stand out really nicely against natural Minecraft blocks. Downstairs we can just knock out this central block of cobble and fall down, and then walk around this space too. And something I've been really keen to incorporate into the Stronghold, and something I'll be using as a concept throughout the builds, is what I like to call block level design, where this is a usable space for players to walk around but also PvP in. It feels like a stronghold, but it also serves another purpose. So if you're down here, for example, and you're attacking from the blue side and you're now in the yellow team's Stronghold Chunk, you might shift in here and hide and people won't see you, so it becomes a usable space for that. We've also got mossy stone brick and cracked stone brick here in the walls, and I've added in a bunch of silverfish blocks as well, so that should be exciting for teams trying to find ways to use those offensively and defensively. We've got our trap chest above here, and then the final feature I've put in was just squaring off this wall, leaving the doorway like that, and put this room in here with the button for the iron door. Obviously there's quite a lot of diamonds in here right now, which you'd be able to get once you've managed to get an iron pick, and we'll need to play test that and balance that when we're doing beta testing. But I'm really pleased with the way this has gone so far, and I hope you've really enjoyed this insight into building the Stronghold Chunk. Next time we'll be working on the village, which will be one block over. But until then, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Bye bye!